Hello and welcome back! I've finished one more year at art school, and that means I am officially halfway through. Just a quick recap of my freshman year because these two were very different. Last year was all about artistic exploration, which you can see in my last video, but this year is all about skill building and the fundamentals of the discipline. Okay, so the first semester was pretty intense. We had at least one animation, sometimes more, due every single week. And the first 4 weeks, we only animated on paper. This is because it is the simplest and lowest tech way to learn how to animate, because KCAI actually teaches you how to animate in the major. There is no prior experience necessary. But I would personally recommend at least trying it out beforehand to see if you even like animating. What we would use is just pencil, paper with the special hole punch called an Acme hole punch, and a light box, which basically allows you to see your previous drawings through the paper. And then we would record our drawings with a down shooter, which is just a DSLR camera attached to a stand and on a computer that has this program called Dragon Frame. And this is how we would record all of the drawings that we took. This was 4 weeks, and we just learned fundamentals like the ball bounce, pendulum swing, and a few other exercises. Our next unit was stop motion. We did this for 2 weeks and it was very DIY. We just used our phones, our tripod, and an app called Stop Motion Studio. This is completely free and great if you're interested in trying out stop motion for yourself. We had 2 projects, which were each 1 week long. The first was open, so I decided to animate my socks putting themselves away. The second, we had to animate elements, which were either smoke or steam, then fire and water. So I used tulle fabric, glitter, which was still there by the end of the year, and my shirts. Our next unit was learning tune, boom, harmony. I was so excited for this because I had always wanted to learn this program. We spent 3 weeks on this because that was the length of the free trial. And I ended up using it the whole year though because I just loved it so much. I cannot believe that I did not know how to use it a few months ago because it is my go-to now. It's what I use for everything. And it's also really easy to switch from Adobe Animate, which is what I was using before, to Toon Boom. They even have Animate hotkeys as one of their presets. We spent all of 3 weeks pretty much just learning the software. We started with some ball bounces, and then we moved on to learning the powerful perspective tools. We had a object move through 3D space, and then we also had to do an obstacle course. And I'm still not perfect at perspective, but this definitely changed my understanding of it and really improved how I would use perspective in the future. The next 3 weeks were spent on character animation. We could use any medium that we wanted, because now we had tried quite a few, and then it was mainly to practice principles like anticipation. That was one of our assignments. Then we got to the walk cycle. This was the final before the final. We had 2 weeks instead of the usual 1 to make this. We had to turn in a skeleton of the animation halfway through the assignment, and then we had to drop character on the animation, which is basically where you turn that outline into all the details that make it your character. And I did my character, Octon. And then the final project. This was very open, any medium, it just had to be 15 seconds minimum. And I will not be showing you it. So sorry, but I still need to polish it up a little more and I want to release it separately. But here's a sneak peek. Now we get into the second semester. As an experienced animator, I think I learned a lot more in this semester than the last one. There were so many new programs to learn and skills, while the first semester was more just an intro to animation. This semester was divided into 3 workshops, which were each around 3 weeks long. The first workshop was After Effects. I already had some personal experience in this. If you saw my Pumpkin's Revenge video, that's when I really learned After Effects, but it was so nice to get a proper introduction to the program, and I learned about so many tools I had been missing out on. The first 2 weeks were just tutorials, which were a little bit of a slog to get through, but they were super useful. In the last week, we spent making a looping self-portrait collage, so we had to use a mix of different images, and then I also put in some of my own animations. The next unit was Toon Boom Harmony again! This time it was all about rigging, and we had to use Toon Boom Premium for this because of the peg feature, which is key to rigged puppets. You cannot do it without it. And this is a very common animation technique used in television. And to help you understand what rigging is, think about a physical paper puppet that has many pieces attached by little hinges, but it's digital. And it's animated through setting poses, and the computer interpolates the movements, which the animator can then adjust through graphs. This also uses replacement drawings, which is common for eye blinks, different hands, and lip syncs. The assignment was for us to make our own simple rig for a lip sync, and it's not a full rig, just some expressions, lip sync, and body gesture because there was not enough time to make a full rig. We got 2 weeks to work on it, and most of this time was spent just building the rig, and I really pushed my limits because this was a medium I'd been looking into for a project. We'll see if I ever do that project, but I really wanted to test a character design to see if it would actually work and just to test what I could really do if I went at this fully. One of the big challenges with the character I chose and designed was that I wanted her to be muscular, but that does make it harder to hide some of the joints. I really enjoyed building this, but I do wish we spent a little more time learning how to animate the puppet, specifically with the graph interpolation. The audio I used was from Animatronics Help Wanted 2 playthrough, and here's the animation.
Okay, is there a camera on the desk? Pick up the camera. That's for your own safety. Now check the abyss. Okay, is there a camera on the desk? Pick up the camera. That's for your own safety. Now check the abyss.
We also did a character acting assignment. This was hand-drawn and completed in the same 2 weeks as the rig.
Our final workshop was Maya, the big 3D animation program. I'm not personally pursuing 3D animation, but I still found it very beneficial to get familiar with the program and just have an introduction so I could jump in and learn 3D in the future if I wanted to, or just understand what 3D animators go through. The first week was, surprise, surprise, learning the program, and specifically learning how to render, because rendering is a large part of 3D animation. This is when the final frames are created, and they can take a long time depending on the complexity of the movement and the textures of the objects. And it was really important to plan for rendering time, which could be hours, so that could mess with a deadline. After we spent a week just getting familiar with the program, we then had to animate a character walking from onto screen, sitting down, and then off screen, with at least 2 camera angles. One of my personal favorite parts with animating in 3D is it's like stop motion, but without the pressure of having to get it right the first try. You can tweak it. The last week, we spent making a bumper, which is a short animation that goes at the beginning or end of your work. I did text in Maya, but everything else was in After Effects or my drawing program, Sketchbook Pro. I also mixed the audio. This bumper is for my main series called Ambergarian Oversight, and I hope you enjoy. And then the final. We had 3 weeks to make whatever animation we wanted. It just had to be new and at least 5 seconds long. I made 2 walk cycles in Toon Boom Harmony. I wanted to do this because I was a little unhappy with the personality conveyed in my fall walk cycle, and I also wanted to show the difference between how a large and a small character walk when they're going the same speed. I've had this idea since the fall, and I was so glad to be able to execute it for this final project. I'm also glad I actually got to the compositing step, which is when you make the animation look pretty and polished, because I usually don't have time for that. So, here it is. Wrapping up, that was all just for my main studio class. I took multiple electives, specifically in sound, which I hope you can tell the difference between this year's audio and last year's. Last year's was not great. So in the fall, I also competed in an animation competition called the 24-Hour Animation Challenge. It was really fun, and my team actually plays pretty well, so that was a really awesome experience. In the spring, I spent a lot of time focusing on improving my professional practice and career readiness, and overall, looking back, I've grown so much this year. I could not do what I'm doing now back then, and I just overall have more confidence to make whatever animations I want to. I've also been doing a lot of stuff outside of school, specifically cosplay and conventions. I actually competed in Planet Comic Con KC's cosplay contest and won a Judge's Choice Award for my Glitch Trap cosplay, which I am so thankful for. That was such an amazing experience. Got to meet so many awesome people. So if you want to keep up on my cosplay and everything, I post on 5 Twisted Nights on Instagram, and it is mainly FNAF and cosplay stuff. And if any of my characters have interested you throughout this video, I have a Toy House, which is a character storage and information website, which I am pretty active on and try to keep updated. If you want to keep up with my stuff, those are the 2 main places you can find me. And with that, I'll say goodbye for now. Hopefully it won't be another year until I post again, but no promises. Goodbye!